What's going on, fam? The Wholesale Boys back again for episode 34, our 34th deal breakdown. We got Max on today. Max and Chris just closed on a deal yesterday or today, I believe. And we're going to walk through this thing. For everybody that's never been here before, my name is Charles Stanback. I'm the A to Z wholesaler, one-man band, from marketing to transactions to closing to everything you can think about wholesaling. We got my guy Chris Crump also in the building. Chris, tell me about yourself, brother.
Yeah, well, I just messed up. I just realized I was drinking my pre-workout, which is going to be for after this show. So I put it way away. So
You start getting the zoomies in the middle of the call.
Yeah, what type of energy you need on here.
yeah. But yeah, I'm a dispo guy. All I do is help wholesalers go out and dispo their deals. We do that here. I'm here in North Dallas. We do it nationwide, but yeah, my role is, instead of being direct to seller, I'm direct to wholesaler, and I'm helping fill the gap for people who are heavy on acquisitions and need some dispo help. I do have to say real quick, LeCedric has popped in here and he said, I'm the best closer in the world. Nobody solicited that comment. He just wanted everybody to know that. I think a few people might disagree, but
He said he's talking about himself.
yeah, he says he is the best closer in the world.
Self-proclaimed best closer is something I can respect, but I cannot agree with.
Can't give yourself your own nicknames, LeCedric. He is very cold on the phone, though. But yeah, that's what I do. And we've got Max with us today because we just closed and funded on a deal out in Temple, Texas. A deal that Max generated, and then a deal that I helped him dispo. But really excited to have Max on here. You know, we often have some high caliber wholesalers and sometimes some new wholesalers that we dispo for. But Max came to me through a referral of somebody else that I dispoed a deal for. And Max was top notch. I'm really excited to hear more about him. We truly don't know each other that well yet, but I know he operates at a high level. And we've just closed and funded on a deal with Max, and then we have another one in escrow that will probably be hairy too, and we'll probably come back and talk about it. But
Yeah.
fill us in about everything going on in your world.
Yeah, man. I've got my hands in a couple of things, right? So we'll talk specifically about this deal. Me and a capital partner of mine, he wants to get in the wholesale game. Kind of went all in on some pay-per-click advertising, and that's where this lead got generated. And we're kind of building that business. But for the last 3 years or so, a lot of my business model has really been direct to wholesaler, similar to you, Chris, but less on the dispo side and more on the you're brand new and have no clue what you're doing. Let me help you get through without you having to go find a coach or find a mentor. And typically finding myself in positions where we get to JV split, typically on 50-50 splits. So done a lot of that. More recently, a gentleman here in Utah who owns a pretty reputable coaching program. I won't name drop, but he's overwhelmed with students too. I was one of his first students. He's recently asked me to help his newer students as they come in and get onboarded to close deals if they get to that marketing part and they're scared of talking to people. So been helping a lot of people in a JV capacity to negotiate and close on deals. And if it's in a place I'm comfortable dispoing, I'll take a shot at it. And Chris, you know, Texas is a market I'm not doing great at, even though I lived in it. It's a rough place to comp because of the non-disclosure stuff going on there. So
I love that. And that's something, Max, that I've been trying to push Charles in. He runs a great operation, does it from A to Z, really sharp on acquisitions. I'm trying to encourage him to open up a JV channel because there's so much value that he can add, and he does JVs, but he doesn't encourage them or like, you know, scream out, hey, we can help you.
That's true.
He's so good at it, and there's so much more income that he could add to his bottom line. Of course, there's, as you know, Max, there's more hand holding, there's more therapy,
a lot more, yeah.
There's more coaching, but there's also a lot of emotional income. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. It's super rewarding. I also have a 9-to-5, and in my 9-to-5, I was a corporate trainer and have recently been leading a team of corporate trainers. So coaching and teaching and stuff like that's kind of ingrained in my being. So if that's your jam, Charles, you should get into it. If it's not your jam, though, word to the wise, yeah, there's going to be a lot of non-deals and a lot of coaching and grooming for sure. So.
Man, look, I'm so good at everything else. I'm just trying not to invade the space.
I see. Yeah. Saving some space for me. All right. I like it.
I'm just playing, but no, it is something that that we've talked about and that I should get more into because the JVs I have done, they do make you feel amazing. You feel good about them, and it is literally obviously from what you guys have experienced, it's another source of income, bro, another stream of income in this business. So
For sure.
really quick before we get started on this deal in particular, how did you even get into the wholesale space in general? How'd you get into real estate? How'd you find out about it? Where did this all come from for you?
Yeah, good question. 2016 or so, I had this idea that I was gonna start investing and flipping and doing buy and hold plays,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew nothing about the process. So I decided, obviously, the first step is go get a real estate license, right? Like that's what you do naturally, right? So I got a real estate license in Utah. I held that license between 2016, 2018. I let it expire so that I could move out to Texas for a handful of years. But
Mm-hmm.
I thought you had to have a license to be an investor. And once I had my license and I was in rooms with a lot more people who were doing real estate, I quickly learned that that wasn't the case, at least here in Utah.
Yeah.
So that was fun, but yeah, I went to a lot of meetups, figured out where those RIA groups were, started, incorporating myself into some of those communities. Learned about wholesaling at first through Brent Daniels and the
Mm-hmm.
Wholesaling Inc. podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's one of many courses that I picked up along my journey of wholesaling. So I've got my TTP. I've got some driving for dollars course with Zach Booth. I'm part of the
Mm-hmm.
Sub 2 community and part of the Gator community. I've got like my hand in every pot I can. But right now the focus is let's wholesale. Let's build some capital momentum and then start building out some other parts of my business. So
Amazing, man. Amazing. It's a very similar path that a lot of people go through. I started on the Brent Daniels train and watched videos, listened to
yeah,
podcasts for 18 months before I decided to do anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. So you've gotten here. We're looking at some different marketing strategies. You guys have you said you and your capital partner have a little bit of a PPC type of thing going on. So
Yep.
explain how that's working out and where this lead really came from, and explain what PPC is for the people that may not know.
Yeah, so we're doing digital ads or Google ads primarily is what our campaign runs. There's a world maybe someday where we will self-manage and run our own Google ad campaign, but right now we're using a service to run that for us. You might have heard of Bateman Collective. They're fantastic to work with. They're top-notch marketing company. They basically held our hands through setting up a campaign and helped us target different areas. But basically, if someone goes on Google and types in "sell my house for cash" or "sell my inherited home,"
Mm-hmm.
as long as they're in the right geographical location for our campaign, there's a chance that one of those sponsored ads at the top of the search results will be our company, where they'll have an opportunity to fill out a form, and that form will get sent directly to us. And we try to jump on those as fast as possible because obviously they're in a moment where they are looking for a solution to their housing problem. We want to talk to them as fast as we can before someone else gets to them. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So you've got the PPC train rolling right now. And this lead pops in from, I imagine this is in Dallas, in or around Dallas somewhere.
this one was down in Bell County, or so Temple. There's a
Or,
Bucky's there. That's all you need to know.
or
So
Central Texas. But before you
yeah,
jump into that, Charles, I did have a quick question. Just because
Yeah.
in real estate, partnerships can be developed in so many different ways, and I just want you to speak on that for a second. So you have a capital partner.
yeah,
What does that mean? How does that? And you don't have to give specifics, but how does that
yeah.
partnership even turn into something that you guys agree to and can make money with?
Good question.
Yeah, so this is a relationship I've been fostering probably for the better part of the last 8 years. Someone that I work with in my 9 to 5, he's been in leadership positions that he's been in situations where he's even led me throughout my career too. So my partner Denton, he's always investing. He's very aggressive in the stock market. He's got a lot of fun plays that he's made there, and he's just really entrepreneurially minded and being on his team for a handful of years, he and I obviously have talked about our personal lives and things that we're doing outside of work. And real estate is something that's come up naturally in conversation. And he came to me one day and he's like, "Hey, I was on YouTube in a rabbit hole and I stumbled across some wholesaling videos." He's like, "Is that what you do?" I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I do." He's like, "Okay, stop. Tell me more." we ended up spending like an hour on a Zoom call that was supposed to be like a one-on-one at work, and we ended up talking about real estate for an hour. And he was fascinated by it, and saw me gain some momentum, and obviously we were pretty close in talking about a lot of the momentum that I was gaining. And he's like, well, how do I get a piece of this action? Like, what's going on? Like, I said, well, really my biggest problem right now is I rely on other wholesalers' leads to JV, and to do that, like, I need to get my marketing ramped up. So if you want to help me and if you want to partner with me, let's figure out a way to get leads.
Yeah.
So we looked at a couple of things, and landed on pay-per-click and got that all set up. So he's bringing the capital. So obviously pay-per-click is one of the more expensive ways to generate leads. But he has a whole investment account that he was dedicated to throwing at the stock market. He's like, I'll carve some of that out and we'll throw it at PPC. And he's like, basically said, that's money I could make money on or could all lose it all together. So he was basically pushing it all in on black with pay-per-click, and I think we're winning at this point. So it was hopefully a good bet for him. The goal, though, is for the first handful of deals to get him zeroed out, make sure that he has his money back out of it, and then we'll start to fund an actual partnership instead of just joint venturing for the time being. So we're dating. We're in the dating phase of a partnership, but with the trajectory that we're on, and it seems like we'll be in a good place to kind of start that as a fully functioning business together. So.
Yeah, very, very cool. It's just always, everybody thinks, how can I get into real estate? Do I have to jump in and actually do the work? And there's so many different ways and avenues where you can partner up and create a winning scenario for everybody. So it's really cool that you're doing that with somebody that you work with, that you probably see, often.
Yeah.
And that's, it is a delicate balance, because it could go south, it could go, really well, and then you go in the office and he's retired and
the goal. I'm trying to retire my boss from his corporate life and then retire myself from my corporate life. So.
I love it. Okay, so he's funding the operation. You're killing it on the phones, jumping on those leads as soon as you get it. Then you get this one out in Temple. Where do you guys start?
Yeah, so I mean, we get this lead. It comes in. There's kind of a two-step process when we get a lead. So you clicked on our ad, and there's like a very simple, what's the address, what's your phone number? They click that. And then in an effort to hold their attention, there's a second form that it'll take them. So they fill out that first form. I get a text that it got filled out. I know very little about the situation or the property. And while they're filling out that longer form, the goal is for me to get on the phone with him, and that longer form really doesn't matter. It's just there to captivate the audience a little bit. So it buys me time to give them a call. So this lead came in, I gave him a call. He was literally midway through filling out that second part of the form. But basically the form goes over the property, how quickly they need to sell, what they think the place is worth, what they're willing to sell it for, and then a little bit about their motivation. Why are they looking to sell? So this one came in. They thought the house was worth like 120. They were asking for 100. The motivation was, though, that their father had passed away, so he and his sister had inherited it. So I was like, I don't care how much this guy wants to sell it for, if it's unrealistic or anything of that nature. It was just, let's jump on the call. So I was talking to this gentleman.
So let me pause you there. What's the psychology behind that? And explain it like, you're talking to a new wholesaler. So you have a probate, meaning somebody passed away. Why would you not care at all if they're asking for $300,000 on a $120,000 house?
Yeah, that's a good question. So an analogy that I've been using more and more recently is when we think of ourselves as an acquisition specialist, it's so much more about their motivation than their price. Like, that comes with not just cash deals, but obviously I'm part of creative communities too, right? So even if their price is ridiculous, if they're motivated enough, we can look at something like sub-2 or seller finance if that's what we need to do. But I've been taking on this philosophy of be a doctor, right? If your rib hurts and you're not sure what's going on, you're going to go to the doctor, and you're not really thinking about how much is this going to cost to fix. It's just, I need to know what's going on. I have symptoms. I need those symptoms catered to, and I need to get help. Right?
For sure.
The doctor's going to ask those questions like, okay, does it always hurt? Does it hurt more when you do something specific? Is it everywhere? Is it all those questions? Because they're trying to diagnose your issue. And then once they know what's going on, and once they understand your symptoms or your motivation to correlate it to this, Then they're going to say, okay, we have options. Here's your prescription that I would recommend. Here's course A. We can go send you in to get some imaging done, see what's going on under there. Or I can send you on some pain medication, see if that alleviates it. They prescribe based on your symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, if I see motivation and a price that's a little bit out of line, I'll still call and say, hey, Chris, tell me about your situation. Like, let's unpack this. Okay, what are we trying to actually solve?
Mhm.
For them, they inherited a property that their dad was getting up in years, had cats. Cats did not treat the house well. The house was in a bit of a condition whenever we got into it. Fun stuff with that. But basically, my job as the doctor is to say, all right, well, Chris, you have a property that is burdening you in this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is your timeline. You're trying to solve this problem. You want this number, but if I could give you this number, does that not also solve your problem?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then they look at that as, okay, Max is not here to lowball me. Max is not here to hurt my feelings or be mean or steal my property from my grandma, whatever that looks like. It's more of you came to me with a set of symptoms or problems. I'm going to give you an offer that solves that problem. And it's completely unrelated to the value of your house. It's got to be low enough that I can make money on it at the end of the day. But that offer has to be more catered towards their motivation than what they're trying to line their pockets with.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you make a great point because people sleep on how important motivation is all the time. Motivation and timeline, in my opinion, are the most important
Yep.
things that you're looking for, right? But you make another good point about, regardless of what they're asking for or what, a lot of the time these people don't know what
Yeah.
the house is worth. And you're doing a lot of educating. So it doesn't matter what they say in the beginning, what their price is, as long as you can genuinely sense a need for, hey, this person needs help getting out of this situation, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else, they need help. And I'm going to help them as far as I can. If they choose me, amazing. If they go a different route, good for them, right? But I'm going to help this person as much as I can, knowing that that's going to come back and prove to benefit you as well. So I like your take and your mental on that. Now, this is in Temple, Texas, Central Texas. You're in Utah, right?
Yeah.
So when you get this and you're talking to this person, first of all, how many times? I mean, these are kind of the hottest leads you can get, these PPC leads. So how many times did you have to talk to them before you got to a point where, okay, we're close on numbers, we can get this thing locked up?
Yeah, this was a one call close. So I
Yes,
literally closed this guy on the
Now you
phone.
get a freaking
Didn't
bell. That's crazy. I love
Yeah,
it.
friggin' yeah, I should go grab my TTP bell. You probably got one too over there.
For me,
Yeah.
I don't like it's very exciting, but I don't like hearing one call closes because it warps the mind of new wholesalers.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah, not the
doesn't happen
not the foundation. Even with
Yeah.
PPC, Charles said it, like they're the hottest leads, but they're not all one call closes.
know.
There's a lot of sellers, and rightfully so, they're hesitant to be like, hold up, you want to buy my house without seeing it?
Right
Like,
now, yeah.
like you're just gonna see it tomorrow and then beat me up on price. Like,
Yep.
so yeah, don't for anyone listening who's brand new, please don't expect this to be the case. It may be a little bit more common with pay-per-click, but there's a lot of skill sets that have been built to be able to get there for sure. And I'm of the opinion too, if you're doing deals in your own market, like if I was I used to live in Georgetown, Texas, which is a good hour south of Temple. Like if I got this pay-per-click lead, I probably wouldn't try to close this guy on the phone. I probably would try to meet him at the property and close it at the property, just because, this one obviously worked out in my favor, but going belly to belly with the seller, your odds increase significantly of them doing business with you because you're the most convenient option and you're standing right in front of them with the contract, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, good point, Chris. Because I was getting hyped. Hey, we get hyped about it because it happens so rarely. You know what I mean?
good, yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's great. It's very exciting.
Right.
I know, like some people are training on just one call closes, and I talk to new wholesalers all the time. And they're like, made my offer. We were way off in the trash. I'm like,
Oh, in the follow-up sequence. It's in the follow-up sequence.
Right,
There's still, our pay-per-click campaign started in March, so we're 4 months in. This will be our start of our 5th month, right? We still have leads that from the beginning we thought weren't deals, but we're still following up on them because motivation changes, and just things. Life happens, and sometimes people are ready in a different way when you call them 3 weeks later or 2 months later, right? So definitely tail them. So
For
And
sure.
I like what you said about, going in person and doing the belly to belly. I
Mhm.
almost feel like a boomer in wholesaling, and I only started in 2019. But it's like everybody's a virtual wholesaler now, and they're all just closing, trying to close on the
yeah,
phone.
Mhm.
Nobody actually goes and sees these people anymore and does appointments, which is just mind blowing to me that
yeah.
you can get a $5,000 to $10,000 reduction in their asking price just by being face to
For
face.
sure.
Sellers
That's
aren't
good.
as bold when you're there and you're reasoning with them. So
Yeah, the keyboard warrior effect, right? Like if you're hiding behind a phone, they're a little bit bolder, they're a little bit braver, they're a little bit
Mhm.
more but if you're in their house and you're just casually glancing at the broken faucet in their kitchen and you're just casually looking underneath, their couch to see what's going on down, like there it gives you a little bit of a negotiation advantage or an edge and puts some of the psychology in your court. So,
and a lot of these sellers are older. They're aging out of these homes. These people
yep.
want to do business in person. They are accommodating to the newer world of doing business over the phone. But if you meet them where they're at, yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
win 9 out of 10 times. But
And you don't
100%.
have to look good like Charles to do it either. You could be, a
it's
mug
a
like
haircut
me
every
and still
week.
get deals in person. So
Gosh, trying to make me blush over here, man. That's crazy,
I
man.
like it.
Okay, so one call closed.
I
Yeah,
love
one
it.
call close. Yeah, so I talked to the owner. He and his sister were selling it together, but he was more or less left in charge by his father. So chatted with him, I got him down about 10K on the he was asking for 100, he wanted 90. But he wanted to hold off on signing paperwork immediately because he was getting quotes to clean the house, deep clean it, because he knew it was a mess, but he was not leading on to like how bad these cats had destroyed the house. But I told him, I was like, hey, listen, like I don't know how much that deep clean's gonna cost. You already brought a dumpster out to the property. You're telling me that costs you $600 to clear out some of the stuff. Like this is stuff we typically would handle for you. Like if I can come up to 91K, would that basically cover the cost of whatever deep cleaning you find in that dumpster? And he said, yeah. So we got him to sign agreeing to that. So I didn't let him go away and try to do more due diligence or potentially shop my contract. I was like, hey, your problem sounds like $1,000 problem. If I can come up in price by $1,000, does that make a difference? And he said, yeah, that helps. So sent him out that contract. We signed it using PandaDoc because I'm cheap and haven't got a DocuSign account yet. Chris knows, he sees my PandaDoc and he's probably like, this guy over here just using free signature stuff.
Best way to do it, bro. It's the
It's
best way
great.
to do it. Keep
It's
your
so
keep your
good.
expenses low, man. That's all.
Yeah, until you get a multi-document thing that needs signed, and it's like, no, we can do one at a time, and you feel like a chump. But so I sent him the contract. He and his sister got it signed pretty quick. My brother lives in North Austin, so I sent him up there to put a lockbox on the property. I'll call out my brother for being a knucklehead. He put it on like the front gate, like as obvious as possible if there's a lockbox. So the seller went up there to drop the key in. He's like, I moved that to like the back of the house where like people
Yeah.
can see, like not see it. So
Yeah.
we got a lockbox on there, and then really it was a matter of dispoing. And this is kind of where Chris was a heaven sent in this whole process because I was having some health complications, but I got this under contract. We got the other deal that Chris says is going to be a nightmare, which is already proving to be a nightmare under contract. And then I got really sick. I actually had to go to the hospital with pancreatitis for a handful of days. So
Oh man.
I'm sitting there in my 10-day option period to find a buyer super sick. And I'm like, well, good thing I asked Chris to help because I was down and out for the count for a good 2.5, 3 days. So
Wow. Well, glad
that
you're
was a
back.
wild ride. Yeah, I'm glad too. I have a procedure on Friday that one of the possible side effects of the procedure is getting pancreatitis. So I hope that I don't go around too because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But
Hey, man, we'll send one up for you, brother. That's for
yeah,
sure.
I appreciate it. Yeah, anyone listening, any good vibes, prayers, whatever you got, send them my way.
Hey, I got a good question that popped up here. They asked, when does the ARV come into play? You signed it for 91K, but what are you thinking it's worth, and what are you thinking you're going to sell it for?
Oh man, this is where again Chris round 2 saves the day. So Texas non-disclosure state. So I do my best with ARVs. I've got Privy. What I think Privy is telling me is not normally what it is trying to actually tell me. So in Privy, you can see like the list price, and then if you dig deep into it, it'll give you a different number, which I was interpreting as like that was the actual sold price.
Right.
Which Chris, though, with access to the MLS, was like, hold your horses. You're getting excited. Like, this thing is not worth 40K more than it actually is worth, like you thought it was when you locked it up. But there was still some meat on the bone, not a whole ton. So Chris was still down to dispo it. But yeah, basically I pulled it up in Privy, took a look at some things that I thought were similar based on square footage, bed bath count. This one was unique because there had been, I believe they converted the attached garage into a room, and they also extended the porch. So they closed all that in, but they still had a separate garage in the back that they had put, freestanding garage out there.
Okay.
So the square footage we were working with was off, but it doesn't look like they were permitted any of those extensions. So we're kind of playing that game of like, well, it's actually 1,300 square feet, but on county records, it's like 1,000 square feet. A buyer doesn't care if it's 1,300 if it wasn't permitted, like trying to balance some of those nuances of comping it. But it was still deep enough, I think, locking it up at 90 where it was a decent deal, but needed massaging on the back end, which we can probably talk about as we get to that point. But
yeah, what are we thinking at first, though, that the ARV is, like, once you take a look at it?
Oh man, I can't remember. I can look at my text with Chris, but it was funny. He's like, "You're kind of off." He said, "So bad news." I'd have to dig it out of my phone, but it's in the message with
I
Chris.
just tried to figure that out as well. I'm thinking we're around 180.
Okay.
180 to 200K on an ARV.
Yeah.
You had seller at 90.
Yep.
I'm locking that up all day for sure.
Yeah, it felt good. Yeah.
So you're at 50% of ARV, and then I was trying. I guess I didn't do the contracts on this one, but I think we're jumping ahead. But I think we sold it for 99. If I had that right. But
so this one, so we actually sold it for 95, and I renegotiated the seller down to 86 once we had our buyer lined up for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's get into that. So we've got new contracts. Boom, feels good. One call close. You're feeling amazing, and the big man upstairs comes, knocks you down a couple notches immediately with a nice sickness, sends you into the hospital. But you've already sent this to Chris, right? So Chris, you've got this deal coming in Temple. What are you thinking when you first see it?
Yeah, so, that's one of my value adds. I do have MLS access in most of these Texas markets, and it's harder for a wholesaler who doesn't have that or an agent that can work with them to run accurate numbers. Texas is non-disclosure, meaning that they don't disclose their sales prices to the general public. So you need MLS access to have the accurate numbers. So Max brought it to me. We gave him, what we felt was like ARV in a buy price. Yep. Temple is a pretty good little spot. Bell County, a lot of people don't talk about it, but I've had several great assignments in Bell County. So knowing it was in Bell County, I told Max, hey, we've sold a number of deals there. I've got some good buyers out there. Yep. And so we do what we usually do. We sent it out to our VIP and repeat buyers. We got some feedback that they'd probably be a little bit shorter than where we needed them at.
Yep.
And we sent out a couple people. So I'll share my screen so you guys can see, just understand this deal. But
while you pull that up, Chris, real quick, I was thinking like 225 to 250, and you're like, nice try, 185.
180 to 200.
Yeah. 185, there you go, man. Yeah, you thought you had a whale of a deal.
I was like, dang, dude, we're gonna make thousands and thousands of dollars on this bad boy, but we did good either way.
This I just want to show people how our marketing looked. So this is the title, and I was just sharing this with another dispo company today. Your title, you really want to pick out the really, selling parts of your deal. So showing Thursday, we want to immediately drive traffic to, we're going to be showing this Thursday. This is time sensitive.
Yep.
Single family home and Sunset subdivision. So we want to say that subdivision so we catch the eye of the people that, might have property, and that is like there. We're looking for the perfect buyer. So if a buyer has 3 properties in Sunset subdivision, he's jumping right on this. So we want to label that 3-bed, 2-bath, call for access. So this is what we had. We had a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot home on a pretty nice acre lot. Roof was older. It's a metal roof, though. It can last a little bit longer. HVAC was between 5 to 10 years. Foundation was good from what we knew. But this is Let me see if I can pull it.
Already throwing away my deals, man. Just on to the next.
Oh man.
I respect it. They'll get it once they see it too.
So this is the property that we had. So outdated, not a tear down, still livable.
Oh yeah, that's not bad at all.
From what the pictures tell you. Apparently it's a different story once you're in there.
Oh man.
Oh, okay.
What you can't see in the pictures is the little fleas flying around in the property.
So we got 2 offers from this. We had a $67,000 offer and an $80,000 offer.
Okay.
Both of these folks walked the property. Their feedback was, Chris, it smells like shit in there.
Yep.
My ankles are all bit up. You have a flea problem. Did you know that?
Yep. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I live in Dallas. I haven't walked that property. Thank you for telling me that.
Right.
So it was just more work than needed. We labeled it as a good foundation. We have to go off what the sellers tell us in some of these virtual deals.
Yep.
It turned out to be a good foundation. The foundation needed work. The roof is older, so it just needed more rehab than we had anticipated.
Yeah.
On top of it not being a pleasant experience when our buyers are walking.
It also sounds like
that changes everything. I've had we talked about this deal before where, I lost out on just as much, $15,000-$20,000 because cats had just been pissing all over the house for the last.
Yeah. When your buyer's leaving a bad mood, they're not going to be giving you a good offer.
Yeah, they're not.
Well, I
they're
think
offering over. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think for me too, and this is a lesson I think to be learned, especially as you start getting feedback from buyers, right? Like I wasn't super hands-on with dispoing, but Chris was telling me, hey, this is the feedback. Some people are suggesting that the subfloors in some of these rooms need to be ripped up because the cat feces was going so deep into there.
Yeah.
When Chris was telling me this, I think that something that if you're on the dispo side, regardless whether it was Chris doing it or myself, I was telling the sellers like, hey, I've got people going through, my guys are taking a look. There's a couple of things that have come up though that are concerning.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like those cats did do some damage to a couple of those rooms. And I even told them at one point, I said, I'm auditioning contractors is what I said. I said, one of them thinks all the subfloor needs to be replaced. The other one thinks we can get away with just some rooms. And I got to feel out the seller. They're like, oh yeah, like maybe some rooms. I don't think the whole thing needs it, but I was priming them because when we start getting feedback like this, I know in my brain, I'm probably going to have to renegotiate on something. So I'm putting these things in their brain so that later down the line, if we do need to renegotiate, then we have the room to do it. They understand maybe the logic behind some of that. So
yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I love that strategy of like just letting them know, hey, as people are coming through, just letting here, I don't have I'm not saying we got to do it yet, but just putting that in your head because it automatically lets them start. Okay, how much less am I willing to take on this? Right, they're already thinking about it, right?
And that's exactly why I'm providing that feedback. Is one, a wholesaler, an acquisition partner knows that we're working the deal and that we're getting live feedback. But two, if someone's really good as Max is, you're using that as ammo, justifiable ammo, to let the seller know the real deal situation. And I try so hard to instill that into my team and my dispo managers that updates with our acquisitions partner is gold for them, even if it's no update. Hey, we called 20 realtors. They all say there's no buyers in that pocket. That's something that our acquisitions needs to know rather than 3 days of silence. And then we hit them and this is all our feedback and we just dump it on them. Just give it to them throughout the process so they can stay informed, feel good about us. And then they're informing their sellers. But yeah, we had a couple folks walk it. Prices and offers came in lower than we could accept. Max is working on the price conditioning with the seller throughout that process. And then I get the phone call that all of us turn our phone upside down for, a New Western guy calling me.
All right.
I don't know what it is about New Western. They used to be just right up front, hey, I'm with New Western. But now they have a conversation with you first. And then, oh, by the way, did I mention I'm with New Western?
Yeah. They're tired of getting hung up on first sentence. Yeah.
No, you didn't. But I'm okay with working with New Western under certain premises. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. We treat them like cash buyers.
Yep.
If they're going to call and they're going to be confident in their numbers, I know they have buyers on the back end. I'm totally fine with them making money. I make money with anybody in the world. Mm-hmm. But if you're calling me with an offer and you're confident, I want you to show that confidence, and I'm going to treat you like a cash buyer. That means you're not going to get an option period on this, and you're going to go hard on your earnest money. Yep. You can't say, hey, in 5 days, if we have a buyer, then I'm going to commit to you. If you're going to take up my time and Max's time, then let's show a commitment.
The adage is old as time. Put your money where your mouth is. New Western.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I've worked deals with New Western like this, so it is possible. When you ask for earnest money, that is gonna come out of the agent's pocket. New Western's not gonna fund that. So you got to have an agent who is super solid, knows his numbers, is confident in that, and ultimately knows he has a buyer on the back end. But that's how we treated it. He called me, hey Chris, I really think we can take this one down. We talked about price for a little bit. I told him, hey, I'm going to treat you as a cash buyer.
Yep.
If you're confident on your numbers, I need you to go no option and hard on your earnest money.
Yep.
He understood it. He gave a little bit of kickback. But again, in Dispo and as wholesalers, we own the leverage, right? We're the ones that are holding that contract. If New Western doesn't want to play by those rules or a buyer doesn't want to go by your terms, totally fine. They're out the door. It's your contract that you're holding. You own that leverage.
Yeah.
So I set the table. It looks like you have something to say, Max.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remind me, because I could be mixing this up with a different deal, but they were wanting option at a higher purchase price, but they were willing to put money down hard, but they lowered their price a bit, right?
It's all fuzzy. The details are all fuzzy. But
I want to say it did, because that was another thing that I latched onto in this whole renegotiation stage. I was like, okay, well, there's some meat on the bone we've just lost. Let's see if we can get that with the renegotiation.
Yeah, I think they were up like $3K, maybe $5K.
I think so, yeah.
But with our timeline, I mean, it wasn't doable with our timeline. We wanted a hard commit, or we were going to pivot. But he was up for that. So the way that he set that up is, he said, hey, Chris, I know I do have a buyer. I just want him to walk it. Can you send me that assignment? And then can you and we were sending this at like 2 p.m. in the day. He said, can you put a small option till the end of the day? I'm just going to go walk it with him. And then by the end of the day, I can tell you if I can commit to that. I had narrowed a 3 to 5 day option down to 2 hours. I was okay with that.
Oh, my boy, let's do it.
I'm not going to make anything else happen in that 2 hours.
Yeah.
We gave him that small option. He went and walked it. He brought his buyer. He came back, told us about the fleas again. We weren't expecting them to go away over a couple of days.
I think he ended up bombing it while he was there too. Before he walked it. Yeah,
he did do a flea bomb, which that probably helped him sell the deal.
Yeah.
But we got him to commit to that. So he went and walked with his buyer, called me right back, said we're good to go, and we ended up selling that deal to New Western, which was a fairly smooth process until the end, which we'll get to. But I've sold a couple of deals to New Western just that way. I just think it's important for wholesalers to know, one, if they're contacting you, Max, you said this in the beginning. I think it was before we were on the call, but if they're contacting you, that likely means that you've got meat on the bone. So you don't need to jump and sell it to them. But two, you don't always got to play by their rules. We view them as a big corporation and they're under strict guidelines, which of course they do have red tape and things to go through, but you own the leverage. It's your contract. If it's not terms that you're agreeable with, come to another Dispo person that can help you out or go out and sell it yourself. But it's not New Western, they're not the authority on that deal.
Yeah, I mean, real estate's the Wild West, man. Even the companies with red tape, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a cowboy, bro. It's the Wild West, man. It is what it is. So, but I'm glad you're saying this because most people feel like they get bodied by New Western. You know what I mean? New Western calls, they run the show, they tell you how it's going to go, and they don't know that they have these options. So I'm glad that there's just got a few success stories where, hey, yeah, I'm going to work with you, New Western, but here's what we're going to do to make sure you're not, pulling the wool over my eyes here.
And most don't like it. Oh, Chris, I understand, but I can't do that. Totally fine, but that just means you didn't believe your own numbers.
Yeah.
Which we're not going to waste time for. But yeah, you're right.
I like it. So you guys get locked in, right? How much time do you have to close at this point when you get locked in with New Western?
We're like 2 weeks out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So my option was only like 10 days or 14 days on this one. So, I mean, we got it locked up towards the end of the option period, and I think I put a 30-day close on it. So, yeah, we had a couple weeks.
So we got him in at 95. We have a 5K profit.
Yep.
Max has, he has myself to pay himself and his capital partner.
Yep.
5K, that'll pay for a lunch, but we've got some overhead as well. So he has the ammo to go back and have that conversation, and he's been price conditioning his seller. So how do you get them to come down another 4K?
Yeah, so I hopped on the phone, and I've done this two different ways, and I chose to do this way because I felt for their situation, and they were super easy to work with. But I called them up, and I basically had the conversation with the seller. Hey, I'm good to go with all my inspections. All of my people have walked through. There's some expenses that I wasn't expecting that came up.
Mm.
So I basically told them right at the beginning of the call, I'm going to ask you to share in some of the costs of those expenses.
That's a good way
So
to put that. Wow.
I like that.
right. So I basically said, hey, the extra amount of work that I didn't do up front, like that I wasn't aware of, I didn't know we would need to do, is really that subfloor issue that we'd already discussed. It's gonna cost me anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 more than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I could have gone two different ways. What I normally do and what I recommend people do is, that being said, how much are you willing to share in the
Yep.
cost with me?
Yep.
And they might be like, okay, we're at 91. Maybe I can come down to 80 to help you with that. Like maybe they'll eat most of it for you. Maybe they
Yeah.
realize, maybe they thought they had a smoking deal this whole time and they thought they were going to get away with highway robbery, and they're willing to maybe, repent a bit with some negotiation, right? But this one, I was like, you know what? I was thinking about the net game. I was like, I'd like to make 10K on this one.
Yep.
It was super smooth. Chris did a great job. He took a lot of the pressure off of me, right? So I tried to get them down to 85. And he's like, you know what? That makes sense to me. It's my sister that she hasn't done a lot of real estate. She might not have a good time with this. I was like, okay, well, do you think she'll be agreeable to 85? She's like, you know what? I was expecting you to lowball me like 50K. Like they were expecting something pretty traumatic to happen in that negotiation and for it to blow up. So I think he was happy that I didn't really dig too deep into that.
Yeah.
But he called his sister pretty quickly after I hung up with him. He texted me. He's like, Lisa wanted me to ask, can you come up to 87? I was like, if we do 86, can we make it happen? And he's like, yeah. So Lisa negotiated $1,000 off of me, and she felt like a baller.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Kids, my friend. So you just remember that. All right.
Yeah, for sure, right? So again, some of the psychology at play, like I knew when I asked for a $10,000 spread that it was likely that they'd try to come back with something different. But at this point, again, with the health stuff I had going on, I wasn't about to try to go overly aggressive and cause a problem out of something that I did need to cause a problem out of. So.
For sure. Okay, so now we're locked in at 86 and 95. So we got 9K here, right?
Yep.
Decent spread, decent deal, especially in this price point. That's relatively normal, I'd say, for the price point. So here we are. We got an assignment signed. We got a buyer locked in. We got a reduction signed. We got 10 days, 12 days to close. And this is when you feel like things should be the smoothest. And this is where they tend to get the rockiest of them all. So tell me what happens between reduction and the closing table.
Well, this is, and I put myself in this position knowingly, but this is the hard part about me as a dispo guy, ultimately kind of handing the keys to the car to New Western. Yep. I'm now just playing telephone. Hey, Max, is everything going good with the seller? Hey, Sean, you have a New Western. Your buyer ready. You got the funds ready. And it's just me, Max, he's good. Hey, Sean, seller's good. And doing that. But, we do that for every couple of days. Are you good? Funds ready? Is your buyer ready to sign? The good thing about this guy, New Western, is he did communicate well. When I'm asking him questions, he's returning the call or sending me a text. So we get to closing date. New Western, they go and sign. Buyer signs. Seller doesn't. This is Friday. Seller doesn't sign until 5 p.m. So we're like, okay, funds are going to come in Monday. Max has to inform his seller of that. Perfectly fine. I asked New Western, did you fund on Friday? Funds have been sent. Nothing to worry about. Get to Monday, or like, okay, around noon, the funds should hit, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, again, I'm stuck in the middle. Max has a seller to answer to. We all know sellers. Once they sign, they think they're going to walk out of the title and there's going to be a big bag of money that somebody hands to them. And then the deal's over.
One of those big fancy golf checks or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I had a seller call my attorney yesterday really quick. They just got their seller documents back. Not the seller documents, excuse me, the seller information sheet. Just like your name, your address, right? They sent that back like 2 days ago, and they're calling the attorney today saying, where's my money? So yeah, I mean, sellers are just doing what they want around here. But
they think someone's gone off and stole it. And
yeah.
So Monday hits, and Max has a seller to cater to, right? So every hour, I'm sure the seller's blowing up his phone, and
Yeah.
he's got two different parties. He's got that son who is relatively calm, and he's got the sister who wants to feel like she's in control and owning the deal and beating Max up and everything else. So we don't have funds coming in on Monday, and I'm calling the guy, and he's like, Chris, I promise this will come. This will come. We're backlogged in deals. We closed a lot of deals at the end of the month. Lending is probably just behind.
Yeah.
I can only really take his word for it.
Yeah.
He's telling me all the right things. I'm telling Max, and Max is like, he's done this before.
Finessing it with the seller a little bit. Oh, I'm calling my bank. I'm trying to get the routing number so I can call title and let them know exactly what the code is to look for. Yeah, I was working it real hard. So
he gives us the New Western, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but it is for the seller and making sure they have a good experience. But he's giving me, Chris, it'll be there by noon. No way it's going to be there, past 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock hits. I just spoke to them. It'll be there at 4. And we're like, and I'm telling Max, I'm like, I'm not 97% sure we're going to get funded on this. They do have policies and things they got to follow through in. It'd be bad business for them to just drop the ball here in the 12th hour.
Yeah.
But the 12th hour came and went, and they still hadn't funded. So
we had an email from their side saying, no, it funded. And really what that meant was we sent it, and it was sent late on a Monday, which was not last Friday, but we won't split hairs. They sent it eventually.
So they fund it late Monday. Tuesday rolls around, and I'm like, Sean, hey, today, I'm like, Sean, you need to call title, give them your confirmation number, give them your social, your firstborn, whatever you got to do to know that the funds are there.
Yeah.
A couple hours later, like 11 o'clock today, funds have finally cleared. But yeah, it's never fun for a seller or anybody in our position to close somebody on Friday, and then you gotta wait another 36 business hours to give them their money. But
yeah, kind of funny today too, because Chris, you had messaged me. You're like, I'm pretty sure we funded. I see it on my side. I'm like, cool. Let me check my side. Yes, I'm funded. And then I messaged the seller like, hey, looks like everything's funded. He's like, my sister saw her wire come through, but I haven't seen mine yet. What's up with mine? So all of a sudden the roles had reversed. Like the sister was like, cool, I got paid. And he's like, where's my money? Anyways, but I'm pretty sure he just saw it recently and he's good to go. So
yeah. And the important thing here, and Max, you can speak to it because you were the one in the hot seat, but you just have to put yourself in the seller's position. They sell these houses once or twice in their lifetime. This one inherited, it's more like a gift, if you will. New money that just came to them. So they don't know Max. Max closed them off a phone. They might, after they've signed, they might have had seller's remorse and, oh my gosh, I went to high school with a guy named Max, and he beat up all the kids, and I just don't know about this.
Worst name association ever.
So you just have to understand, although it's annoying for a seller to be calling and the funds are coming, you've got to put yourself in their position. But what do you think about that, Max? How was that for you?
Yeah, so I think that kind of coming full circle, motivation, right? Like at the very beginning of this process, the reason why they chose to do business with me so quickly is because I made them feel like I was a family solopreneur, kind of small operation, and they loved that about me, which for all intents and purposes, I am a pretty small operation, but that was really important. They were dealing with inheritance, so a family issue. They felt like I was treating them like family. They felt like the process was going to go smooth. They appreciated the open communication and honesty the whole way. So when these things started happening, I kind of circled back to that same motivation, right? Like I was like, hey, seller, like, I am so sorry this is happening. This is weird for me, but here's everything I'm going to do. Like, obviously it's not in my best interest to not fund because I technically don't get your property unless I pony up the money. Like, I want to do right by you. I'm sorry if this is causing undue stress between you and your sister. Like, it was very apologetic and try to keep that kind of family values vibe pulled through all the interactions I had. And he even, I'll pull up the message that he sent me today once he realized he got his money, but he basically said that they really appreciate working with somebody who treated us like individuals and had, family at the forefront of their values. And I was like, that's really pretty cool, because I don't get often texts like that after something is closed. People are like, deuces, I got my money, but they felt taken care of. And they made that known. So it really comes back to that motivation, making sure that they feel safe and secure. I had never talked to the sister throughout this whole process either. He was the middleman. And I even offered several times, hey, if there's anything she needs, please have her contact me. I'm happy to speak to her. He was body blocking some of her anxiety from me, but I was willing to take that on if that's what he needed and that's what she needed. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. And even though you're hoping that he probably doesn't pass the sister on to you,
oh yeah, I'd be terrified if I had to speak to her. But
it still means like for them, hey, Max is willing to have that conversation. That means he's probably not hiding anything. If he's, we'll take that breath and talk to my sister.
Yeah, that's another good thing too, because he messaged me once, and it was like it seemed like low stress. It was just like kind of casual. Hey, just so you know, this is what I'm dealing with. But when he messaged me the second time, I did not text him back. I called him immediately, and I think that goes a long way for sellers too. Like especially when we're at the point where money wires and things are on the line. Like don't just text them, especially again if they're older in generation. They want to talk to somebody. They want to hear a human's voice, console them or do whatever they got to do. So
yeah, you can't, the tone of a text message versus a tone on a phone is totally different. They're dealing with money. If you send text and say working on it, that might sound very rude to them. On
dismissive.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
with most of these sellers, it's their first rodeo or maybe their second rodeo. They're not doing this a lot, and you got to expect them almost to be like Sour Patch Kids in those last couple of days, right? They're like really, really anxious about getting the money. They've never seen you before half the time. They don't know where you are. They don't know what's going on, right? And I think all of that kind of comes to a head when there's any type of delay at the end, right? It's like they're thinking like, did I just sign over my property and they're going to – that's all they're thinking, right? So but this has happened multiple times where, funding gets delayed and you have to wait. And they always, every time it's like, I'm like, man, this review is going to suck when I asked for the review on this. Right. Yeah. And as soon as they get their money and I'm like, all right, it's great working with you. Would you mind leaving me a review? Oh, absolutely. No problem. They go in there, write a beautiful review. And I'm like, yeah, as long as you can perform, even if it takes a couple extra days, just keep your sellers abreast of what's going on and it'll turn out for the better. So I'm glad you guys were able to get this done.
And that's a pro tip right there. Hold on before your question. Pro tip. Ask for the review after what, Charles?
After that money comes in. Do not
there's money in their bank account? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. That's like
before that. Yeah.
That's a gold mine right there. I wanted to call attention to it. So
definitely. Give me I got a question for you guys that had come through in the Instagram comments. Do you check title at any point to make sure everything is good there? It's a good question because we didn't necessarily discuss that here.
Yeah, I'm learning an interesting lesson about this because apparently in Georgia it's different. But whenever I get my signed contract, I go to a title company, have them open escrow, and they run that title search as fast as possible. So it's very common that I will see the title commitment before I even have the end buyer fully lined up. So if you see a tax lien or any other type of liens show up there or any type of probate issues, things like that, you'll definitely want to jump on those as quick as possible. So.
Yeah. And I second that. Obviously in acquisitions, most people are on a time clock with an inspection period, but if you have a longer one, if you can get one, run that title first before you begin marketing, because sometimes those deals get blown up for those liens. I mean, we had one with a federal tax lien of $250K on a home worth $150K.
Yeah, good luck.
There ain't no buyer for that. There's no buyer for that.
Yeah, government will be taking that one. No question.
So if you have the time frame, then run it before, because if not, you're wasting your time and your buyer's time.
Yeah, and do your due diligence with your title company, right? Like you should interview them, right? Like we think we're not in the driver's seat with the different people who help us through a transaction. Interview your title company, let them know, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I do sometimes assign my contracts. Can you get me title commitment within 2 business days of me opening escrow? If the answer is no, then take their answer, but interview a couple more and see who's going to perform the best for you. Because to Chris's point, nothing's worse than marketing out a property and finding that you don't have a deal because of a random lien that no one disclosed to you during the negotiation process. So
no question. We got a quick quick follow-up question here. Does the cost for title come out when the money is wide? How does that work? I'll answer that real quick. Yeah, so most of the time your buyers in the assignment agreement, it'll have that your buyer is covering all closing costs. So there are fees associated with pulling title and running title and doing this whole process, but generally that comes, the buyer is paying that as a part of their fund set. Sometimes you'll have to split it. Sometimes you'll have to take, a piece of that depending on the deal, but 95% of the time the buyer pays for the closing costs. But you need to have that in the assignment, because if you don't, when it comes time to pay, they're going to act like they don't know what's going on, and you're going to most likely have to pony some up. So make sure you have that very clear.
Not all closing costs are the same. So if you can find one who is buyer friendly,
yep,
that does help with your buyers. I have just a random question that popped up.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel if a buyer asks you if they can use their title company?
Max?
Oh man, I feel so much disappointment is what I feel typically. It happened in one of this deal that's in Georgia. That's all sorts of weird. That's not been fun. I honestly don't think that I can speak from a place of much experience. It's only really happened to me twice. And the first time it happened, I let them know, like, no, I have a strong relationship. I understand you want maybe discounted costs from your title company, but is a couple $100 really going to kill the deal for you? Yeah. And that time it didn't. I was prepared though to negotiate on my assignment fee. Like, all right, so you're going to pay how much extra? Okay, $1,000 more than you wanted to. Can I share that cost with you? Yep. And I'll drop your purchase price down $500 or whatever, just to see if we can keep it there, because it's not fun for that title company to have to transfer a record or cancel a record, and then all of it has to be restarted. You're hitting reset on a timeline that sometimes is sensitive. So I try to avoid it at all costs.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I do too. Usually what I say is, hey, look, I've done quite a few deals here, but let's do this. Let me use them for this one, right? And if this process isn't smooth for you as a buyer, if you don't like how this goes, moving forward, we can use whoever you want, whoever you've got on your list. And if it does go smooth, then you've got another title company that you can use, in case yours is busy or something. I haven't gotten any pushback on that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Usually the way I ask them why first, just to figure out. I mean, if it's something simple, like, bro, they can do that too.
Right.
But two, again, thinking of this as a relationship business, I don't want to have a company open up a bunch of files and waste their time.
Yeah,
and then me take it out of there. So usually it's just a quick explanation. Hey, they've been working really hard on this file. They've already cleared some liens for us. Would love to keep it here. And then for the next one, yeah, if we do business together again, then we can maybe use your title company. I'll only let that happen if we're in the very beginning of the process and it's not like they've spent a lot of time on it and it's a title company that knows I'm going to bring them future business.
Yep.
But there is a little bit of understanding. If they run 20 transactions through a title company and they got really low cost, I want my buyer to save some money as well. But 95% of the time we're sticking at our title company. If we're very early in the process, then
maybe
we'll sometimes do that.
Yeah, get that title company's name though, and call them and interview them if you haven't, because they might be a better place to do business for yourself, even. So,
yeah. Or you may be at a disadvantage because they're working just for the buyer on that transaction.
True.
100%. Well, guys, I mean, I think this was a wonderful breakdown here. We'll end this off with just the most important thing or biggest thing you learned on this deal. I'll say for me, biggest thing I learned on this deal is that you can work with New Western. They're not the devil. New Western can get you to the closing table, and I can truly appreciate that. Max, what was your biggest takeaway on this one?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway on this one for me, man, there's a couple of interesting ones, really, but I think I need to dig a little bit deeper into my comping process, or just let Chris do all my Texas deals. Maybe that's my takeaway. But no, jokes aside, I think that really just, again, it's not common for a seller to reach out after closing and thank me in a heartfelt way. So I think that there's just some lessons in the acquisitions process and the communication process throughout that I'll take on to my other deals, just to make sure people are feeling taken care of. So.
I love it. Yeah, that's very cool. There's two things that I wanted to share. One, I just thought it was such a little thing, but there's so much value in what you shared earlier. I feel like you probably paid in an education course to get that little piece of knowledge. But you said someone fills out your form and then you have a second longer form that just keeps them busy while you call them.
Yeah, that's crazy. I like that a lot.
That's the crazy, Jim. That
I love that.
like
Bro.
a lot of people probably went right over their head.
Yeah.
But you probably make a lot of money off of that. Did you pick that up in an education course, or is that just?
I mean, I've heard it before. So like if you watch Robert Wensley and Jerry Norton's PPC masterclass, I'm pretty sure Robert Wensley brings that tactic up. And I think Brandon Bateman's in that as well, that conversation. But because I use Bateman Collective, it's ingrained in their process. So I just get to benefit from it without having to.
That was a brain melter for me. And then I just like the other line that you shared with your seller. Will you share in some of those expenses with me?
Here with me. Yeah.
That is so good. Because a lot of people make those calls, hey, and they're real sad, they're real down about it. I've got to be at 50K, and it's just like awkward silence, or they're just real stern about it, which it works. You're kind of bullying the seller into it. But for you, and you're really good at conversation, Max. You could host your own podcast. I would just listen to your. For you, the way that you phrase that, it's a shared experience. We're doing this together. I'm losing out some, you're losing out some. We're both going to come out happy, and the deal's going to get done. But that line, and there's so many just one-liners that can make us a lot of money.
Yeah.
That line, bro, it got you the reduction and ultimately made you more money. That goes over people's heads.
Yeah, I think that's a mindset thing, right? Like, because I'll own up to the fact that I ran my numbers wrong, but really, why did I run my numbers wrong? Well, because the seller didn't disclose everything, right? So there's some on me. Maybe I could have asked more questions. There's some on them. And I think when you ask that question, it's not unreasonable for them to be like, yeah, that came up in inspection. We really didn't talk about that. We talked about cats, but not how terrible they've been to the house, right? So it works like a charm in my experience. So
yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, Max, you're awesome, bro. We really appreciate you spending your time with us and breaking this down. If someone were, because you said that you do JVs, if someone were to look for help, where can you help and how can they get a hold of you?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll jump in at any point in the process. If you've got a lead that you're working on and you think there's motivation, that's kind of like my only real criteria is they're in a situation where they need to sell to an investor, not like retail with an agent, not hold it as a rental, right? If you sense real motivation, I think I'm the only Max Sneary in Facebook. My last name's unique enough, so you can find me on Facebook. I don't know if you guys do show notes or not, but I'll throw my phone number out there too. I'll say it out loud too if you're listening. It's 385-254-4970. Shoot me a text, introduce yourself, and then we can jump on a call. But I'll jump in anywhere in the process. I mean, if you have a contract though and it needs dispoed, I'll tell you right now, call Chris. He'll help you dispo that one, probably better than I will nationwide. But if you need help locking up a seller or getting into an agreement, I'm happy to help or at least get you unstuck. So.
I love it.
Love it, dude. Really appreciate you popping in with us, man. Number 34 is in the wraps. Hopefully you'll be back. I can tell right now that you'll be back, my friend.
Yeah, we've got a Georgia one to talk about, I'm sure. So
let's do it. Well, nice to meet you, Max. Appreciate you as usual, Chris. If you're out there and you're listening, keep dialing, keep hustling. You're one deal away from changing your life. And we'll see y'all next time.
Later, boys.
See ya.